Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone who is joining us. A big welcome to our Bilateral Chamber members and our Bilateral Chamber friends joining us from all over the world. I'm very pleased to bring you another program in our Global Rebound series, and along the sidelines of the OTC. This an exception. So we're very pleased to bring you Chairman Mustafa Sanalla, Chairman of the Libya National Oil Company, a board member of our board of advisors and a good friend. We also, and before he's introduced by another valued board member, Dr. Adel Chaouch, Chairman of CEO of ShaMaran Petroleum, Acting Deputy Assistant Secretary of Energy Diplomacy from the US Department of State, who will give us a little bit of insights as to the administration's outlook and perspective towards Libya in particular. And so I want to offer her a special welcome. Secretary Malenas, thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Ms. Araissi, and I'm very pleased to be participating today. Thank you for having me. And Sabah al-Khair to my colleagues in East Coast and Central Time, Washington, and Masa al-Khair to my colleagues joining us from the region today. I'm very pleased to be here. And of course, very excited to hear from Chairman Sanalla and his remarks. The United States has a long history of engaging and supporting Libya, including the National Oil Corporation and the amazing progress that we have seen so recently. We work across the United States government to support in our support of Libya, and that effort is of course led by Ambassador Norland, who's our special envoy to Libya, of course, and the Energy Department, the Treasury Department, and my department and the State Department, the Bureau of Energy Resources, where we recognize the critical role that energy plays in economies, but also in political systems, and certainly that's the case in Libya as well. We recognize the critical role that the NOC plays as the key Libyan institution with so many highly skilled experts overseeing Libya's oil and gas development, their production and their exports, which are critical to that economic growth and rebuilding that we're excited to see happening. Mr. Chairman, you have served so ably as the NOC chair since 2014, and you've rightfully earned the respect worldwide for your skill in managing Libya's energy sector through so many challenges. It's quite amazing what you've been able to do through the numerous political and economic challenges that you've had. Mr. Sanalla, you've led the NOC and you've worked to ensure the continuation of Libya's oil and gas production and exports, and during those very violent times. And because of your ongoing success in managing and balancing all of those competing interests, while sort of keeping in mind the goal of producing the oil, bringing in the revenue generation so that Libya can rebuild itself. The corporation is one of the most trusted institutions in Libya and internationally, and you're seen, Mr. Chairman, I would say, is sort of the dominant driver behind the oil sector. In case you didn't know, Chairman Sanalla was the recipient of the State Department's International Anti-Corruption Champions Award earlier this year, and I'd like to extend my congratulations to the chairman for that considerable accomplishment. We feel it was a due recognition for his tireless work to sort of defend the transparency and ensure accountability and combat corruption, and making sure that the resource, the natural resources that have blessed Libya are there for the country's people. And I think just, as an overall message, the United States has always been supportive of the National Oil Corporation's effort to remain an apolitical and technocratic institution that is there, again, to sort of make sure that Libya's resources are used for the growth of the country and the benefit of its people. I'd like to just broaden my remarks very gently, just to talk slightly about the political situation, the very positive developments we're seeing. The country is on the cusp of a very exciting new era with the ceasefire agreement in place, the creation of a government of national unity. There is really a sense of hope and progress. Of course, we encourage all the parties to make the hard decisions and the compromises that they need to keep that progress going forward as we have that eye towards the elections in late December. And that is going to be a critical step to Libya's real path of sustainable political and economic stability. And I think just, one other point I would like to make is that all of us at State Department and Energy Department, Treasury, we continue to want to engage with the NOC and our Libyan partners, and not only in terms of looking at the hydrocarbon sector, but of course very important to think about our climate crisis and our future investments that we need to make in clean energy. I think probably everybody on this call is aware of the 17 national laboratories under the Department of Energy. They have that vast expertise on renewable production, of course, solar and wind. Carbon capture is a huge part of that, hydrogen and other technologies that we will need to call on if we're going to get through the clean power generation solutions that we have at our fingertips. Sometimes deployment and financing are the challenges, but we have to work through those hard challenges. Our laboratories may be of interest to the National Oil Corporation and to Libya in the coming months as we move towards that goal of the increased political and economic stability that will allow us to be less in sort of catch-up mode and sort of looking at the future. Clean energy development has the potential to increase Libya's energy sector deployment, especially among young people, newly and educated class of people that are looking for new jobs and new technologies. And that's going to be an ever expanding area in clean energy investment. And it will, help the climate resiliency of Libya as well. So in closing, I just want to note that the President Biden and his entire administration is committed to promoting and expanding energy sector innovation with all of our international partners, including Libya. And we are sort of in a real, I would say almost a race with our economies to support decarbonization of the economies. And we are looking to work with our friends, allies, partners on clean energy. And that is going to be the driving force in our international energy policy going forward. So thank you so much, Aida. Thank you for having me, and look forward to today's discussion.
Thank you so much. And I will also note that all the participants, of course, have an opportunity to submit questions. Please do so along the way, and then we'll highlight those questions towards the end of the discussions. It is my pleasure to introduce a member of our Board of Advisors, Dr. Adel Chaouch. He will be the moderator today. He is the CEO of ShaMaran Petroleum, as I said. He was also the former head of Marathon Oil for the MENA region, and chaired the Waha Corporation, which was a joint venture between Marathon Oil, ConocoPhillips, Hess, and the National Oil Company of Libya at the time. So he has a great deal of experience and insight in Libya. And I thank you, Dr. Adel, for joining us and moderating today. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Aida, for your kind remarks. And also want to thank Secretary Laura Malenas for your insightful remarks. Good morning and good afternoon and good evening for everyone. I join Aida in thanking all of you for participating on this Leadership Insight series, even virtually. Hopefully we'll do it sometime soon in person. I will also add a couple of brief remarks on Libya. I know Chairman Sanalla will give us a very deep understanding of what's happening in the country, but I want to mention that the country enjoys a close proximity to major European markets, has a very young population. Its current main economic driver, the energy industry, is well established, one of the lowest costs of production, and very vast fields have been in production, some of them for over half a century. For the US companies, a number of them on our call, who have an interest in the MENA region, Libya should be on their radar for investments as diverse as health, tech, infrastructure, and of course, energy. Today, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome our friend, our fellow board member, Mustafa Sanalla, the chairman of the Libyan NOC, and this virtual call to talk about Libya. I also have a very difficult task to introduce a man that needs no introduction. So I'll attempt to chronicle his remarkable achievements. Chairman Sanalla has dedicated his career to the Libyan oil and gas industry. His early career was focused on operation, having spent many years after he graduated from the Tripoli University in 1985 as an engineer. He was in Ras Lanuf Processing Company, as well later on in Zawiya Refinery, where he had a number of positions of increasing responsibilities in both. He was appointed to the board of the Libyan NOC right after the revolution. He took on the chairmanship in 2014 in a period where Libya was experiencing significant social and political hardship. He dedicated his action to overall of the oil and gas sector and to increase production despite very limited budgets and challenging security times. He worked closely with key communities and successfully challenged on a public stage the blockades imposed by militia factions on Libya's ports and oil terminals without acquiescing to their demands. Both were key factors in the resumption of the oil production and its exports. He is largely acknowledged as the architect, maybe I should say the engineer, of the revival of the oil and gas industry, the backbone of the country's economy, bringing the daily production level to over 1 million barrels since 2017 is still ongoing, with I'm sure many long plans for further expansion. He played a key role in maintaining the independence of the NOC, protecting Libya's oil as a main platform for the country's stability against a backdrop of intense political rivalry within the country until the Libyan political accord was established in 2015. While remaining neutral on this front, he fended off several attempts to split the NOC into geographical assets. And to support these efforts, he led a number of engagements on a global level using global platforms with the key stakeholders to promote stability, transparency, and anti-corruption in Libya. Chairman Sanalla has been widely recognized as an iconic figure of Libya for its oil and gas sector and received a number of awards. Secretary Malenas stole my note on talking about the recent award by the US government. I think it's more apt that you cover that. I want to also mention a very important one, at least for me, is the award that he received at the same period during OTC 2 years ago, before the pandemic. And this award is the Visionary Leadership Award for Leadership Through Adversity, and I received through the chamber. On a personal note, I had the good fortune to working directly with Chairman Sanalla during my time as the chair of WAHA, as Aida mentioned, on a number of key issues, such as getting out of force majeure, bringing WAHA's production from 0 to 300,000 barrels in less than 1 year, and onboarding countless of talented Libyan engineers into the active workforce. I found them to be of disarming humility, great depth, and matched a knowledge of the Libyan energy sector, and with unconditional commitment to its growth. Without further ado, allow me to open the floor to our good friend, Chairman Sanalla, for the keynote remarks, and I will follow up with some questions. The floor is yours, Mustafa.
Thank you so much, Dr. Adel. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning from Tripoli, the bride of Mediterranean and the capital of my beloved country, Libya. I start thanking our organization, the Bilateral Chamber, for organizing today's event, the VIP reception webinar, and for extending the invitation to me to speak with esteemed participants in this important gathering. Also, let me thank the US Department or its government for its continued support to NOC for the last 7 years. As mentioned, Dr. Adel, the country having the division, having the conflict, and without the support of his department, without support of US government, we cannot work on this high ocean, if I can say, waves. And also, I would like to thank the US Department for the recognition of the anti-corruption for this year for myself. And this I like it. Also, I would like to thank the US Energy Department for continuing work to support NOC for more transparency, and also for many studies for untapping the Libyan resources and exploitation of the Libyan resources. As you know, the National Oil Corporation of Libya, NOC, is the exclusive interested company for developing and monetizing the national hydrocarbon resources, and it has been conducting this role aptly since it was first created back in 1968. Many successes have been achieved along the way, but there have always been challenges and setbacks, especially over the past decade. Armed conflicts and disorder had led to the closure of many oil and gas fields and export terminals. This resulted in an extreme reduction of our daily production for a prolonged period of time. Our crude oil production went down repeatedly to as low as 100,000 barrels a day, 7% of our regular production capacity. The prolonged shutdown of our production and export facility caused excessive corrosion and damage to equipment, storage tank, and pipeline, consequently limiting our capacity when these facilities were gradually put back online. Furthermore, number of oil fields like Al-Ghani, Al-Zahra, Mabruk, Zalla were vandalized and virtually destroyed by raging intruders by Daesh in 2015. These fields need an extensive rehabilitation to bring them back online. The National Oil Corporation and its affiliate companies and partners were always up to the challenges, and we could repeatedly bring back our production to more than 1 million barrels a day, almost now 1.3 million barrels a day of production. And I take here opportunity to commend the courage and sacrifice of our champion in all operating sites. To restore and upgrade the damaged field and the rehabilitation of destroyed field, the National Oil Corporation planning to launch a number of projects. It is important to highlight here the NOC is facing tremendous challenges in rehabilitation and the restoration of its damaged field and facility. Among the challenges are lack of funds of executing a project, the reluctance of an engineering and construction contractor to mobilize their manpower to work site due to lingering insecurity and vulnerable and fragile political situation. Nevertheless, the NOC has recently lifted the force majeure status and on several damaged fields to allow the commencement of rehabilitation work. In addition to restoring our oil and gas production to the pre-crisis level, the NOC had put together an ambitious plan to increase oil production to 2.1 million barrels a day and gas production to 4.1 billion standard cubic feet per day, both onshore and offshore. The plan compromises exploration, new field development, infill drilling, water injector, well workover, and intervention and rehabilitation of damaged facility. Huge investments are needed for the execution of this ambitious project to meet our renewed production targets. Local gas demand for power generation for heavy industry continue to increase with the construction of a new power plant and expansion of many industrial. To attend to this, the NOC is dictating a special attention to developing this coverage gas field on priority basis, both to meet the increasing gas demand and to free the liquid fuels that are currently being used for power generation and direct them to export. Reservoir studies, field development plan, and engineering studies are already underway for a number of gas discovery, both offshore and onshore. This includes Al-Hamada, NC7, Achan, NC200, A&A structure in Area D, offshore Buri gas utilization project, Arus al-Bahr gas field, and Sarir Misla gas utilization, Al-Faraq phase 2. Most of this study are being done by DNM, this is an American company in Texas, Dallas. The NOC is also keen to tap in renewable energies to satisfy the part of power needed to run our facility. This is more important nowadays due to great development in renewable technologies and economics in addition to reduction of carbon emissions. Deliberation with our partner and some specialized technology providers and firms are underway to explore this option. Furthermore, we are currently focusing more on a management of our emissions, including those of greenhouse gases. We are taking necessary measures to eliminating gas flaring and employ the latest technology and solution to manage unavoidable emissions. Oil and gas revenue currently represent 95% of Libya's export earning. The NOC is making great effort to ensure that country's oil and gas resources are wisely and sustainably produced, monetizing and turned into the badly needed income for the development of country and improving the welfare of Libyan citizens. Rebuilding, expansion, and modernization of damaged infrastructure will only be possible with this income. The large projects involved in this will require a huge investment and involvement and assistance of foreign investor, service provider led by American companies and institutions are of paramount. We understand that any successful and long-lasting partnership will have to be based on a win-win relationship, and the NOC is doing some preparatory work and preparation for upcoming stages. This includes an improvement of our EPSA model or exploration production agreement model contract, the development portfolio of project packages for investor, the deployment of fast-track projects, execution options, and improvement of the attractiveness of all these options. Investment opportunity spans all stages of the national oil and gas industry, starting from joint exploring the development of a new field, rehabilitation of damaged and degraded field, and application of enhanced oil recovery, reconstruction, and expansion of transport, storage, export facility, expansion and modernizing of refining and petrochemical complex, and building new ones, producing tight reservoir and heavy oil field. For all these projects, the added value of Libya being geographically well positioned near the traditional product market, the ease of production, the relatively high quality of oil and gas already developed infrastructure, all make investing in Libya much more attractive with the minimal risk and more rewardable. We trust that the fair and the mutual cooperation is way forward. We want to share the burden of a project, funding, generate reasonable and satisfactory return for the investor, explore and exploit a new concession area for maintaining and enhancing our proven oil and gas reserves, introduce and implement the latest relevant technology and transfer this and industry know-how to Libyan national while enhancing the overall local content. It is worth highlighting that there are a Libyan oil and gas industry was pioneered back in 1960 with the indispensable help of American services and technology provided and IOCs. Today, we are all keen to see this company again taking the lead in revival and development of our field and the production and processing facility. Back in 2019, we chose to locate our first overseas branch in Houston. This branch was dictated exclusively to the North American market. The branch is now fully activated and it's an appropriate destination for those who want to do business with us. We all understand the development can only happen in an environment of security and political stability, and we are very optimistic about the latest political development and formulation and inauguration of national unity government. And we believe that the future is only better. Some positive changes are already underway, including uniting governing institutions, planning for general election toward the end of this year, the return and the opening of some foreign embassies, international institutions, and companies. We look forward to better coordinating and support by current government through the newly formed Ministry of Oil and Gas, whose role should be an added value to sector and should be built on successes achieved by the NOC so far. If this is not guaranteed, bickering and obstruction may prevail, and destructive consequences of this are not difficult to foresee. Finally, the future of oil and gas sector in Libya is undoubtedly bright and promising and offer excellent opportunity for the US investor and service provider, as well as for the international market player. Again, I thank you all for your participation, and I wish you a successful event and deliberation, and I hope we soon return to in-person meeting and direct networking when the current and preceding pandemic is behind us. Thank you so much.
Many thanks, Mustafa, and I agree with you. I hope we'll see you soon. Maybe at the end of the year during the World Petroleum Congress will take place here in Houston. So it could be an opportunity for us to meet together and the group. I do have some questions, if you don't mind, Mustafa. The first one, you touched briefly on the security situation in Libya. I want to revisit that. And also in the current context with the global pandemic that affected countries unevenly across the world, we would like to have from you the impact of the global pandemic in Libya and its oil and gas industry.
Okay, thank you for the question. I think NOC took very positive steps since the pandemic in February 2020. Maybe not only we covering our employees, but also we helped the locals where we work with. So we give a support to more than 100 municipalities for all, the materials to work against the pandemic. So we support not only NOC, we are following up the situation day by day. Unfortunately, we lost until yesterday. In total, we lost 58 persons, our colleagues, including NOC and our subsidiaries. We monitor we are monitoring on daily basis, and also we keep monitoring the situation in the country. But I can assure you, the situation in the sector is much better than the other sector because of our regulation. Very strict regulation, especially about the keeping distance and meetings, and we have very stringent regulation. So this is from the pandemic point of view. From security point of view, I believe the situation is much better right now. You can see now, as I said, the continuation of production of oil is still a normal way. So I believe the situation is much better. Today, I received the chairman and CEO of Petroleum company. It's a British company, one of the leading company in UK. So I think this is the good situation. 2 months ago, I received also Mr. Batik Bouyané, the chairman and CEO of Total Energy. This can give you an impression about the situation, security situation in the country. We hope that the ceasefire will keep continuing. We hope that the committee 5+5 keep also running, and we'll have no more war, and we could produce more oil. So I think from security point of view, situation is much better. We do our operation, now especially the workover and seismic, everywhere in the country, near Libyan-Tunisian border, on the southwest, near Algerian border, everywhere we are working. So I think still up till now, we have no any problem, and the situation is good. And with our support to the local community, I think now we have the heart of the locals, and we have no more blockade from the locals because of our support to these communities, from the southwest to the southeast, to the north, and to the west. So I think the situation is much better than before.
Thank you so much. It sounds very reassuring, despite the impact of the COVID and the current context. You, to switch on the subject, you talked about a number of priorities. Some of them might appear immediate around bringing back production, damaged facilities. These are all key elements of bringing back production to the levels you wish, around 2 million barrels. What are the immediate needs for the repairs and improvements? And are you receiving help, including financial help, to get these projects back on track?
Yeah, really, we need only budgets. That's all. I'm saying funding. Unfortunately, as you see the situation in the country, still the budget is not approved yet by the parliament, and there's still debate. But we are taking some part of money from the government, without budget. So, but still, we are working without budget, if you can say. Our plan this year, we were planning to increase production from 1.3 to 1.45. I believe it's still only 4 months, so it will be very difficult to reach our goal. Maybe we'll reach 1.35. We are going to celebrate a new field, maybe beginning of September, Al Khair field. This is the Sirte Basin, and another one, the Tahara field, also hopefully by maybe October. This will be on Ghadames Basin near Hamada area. So this will celebrate 2 new oil fields, both one in the west and one on the Sirte Basin, one on Ghadames Basin and one on the Sirte Basin. But we're still suffering from the lack of budget.
Understood. Thank you, Mustafa. In your keynote comments, you mentioned also a number of opportunities, and clearly fields that need repairs, but also fields that need significant investment in terms of bringing infield drilling, further exploration, and a number of refineries being upgraded. These are possibly investments in the billions of dollars, where you mentioned you'd be interested in the US companies, particularly the ones that have worked in the past, to come and help. And clearly, with the opening of your office in the US as the first outpost of the NOC in many years, I think it's a clear signal that you would like to see the US companies. What would, and we have on the call a number of US companies here from many sectors, what would be the message to them in terms of incentives for investment, any attractive goals that you want to reach by bringing US companies, to support your growth plans?
Well, as I said, Dr. Adel, we are very open to have a new contract, not only EPSA contract. So we are trying to make, a good package for the investor to come back. We are not isolated. We are seeing Algeria, our neighbor. They are doing a good now work, especially for the attracting more investors. So they reduce the taxation. I spoke directly with the Prime Minister, and I think his vision also to attract more investors to the country. We need some legislation. We work inside NOC about the new legislation and about the contract and what we can do. I think this will be a win-win relation, this in general. But particularly when I speak about the American company, as I said, we have good history with our American company. As you know, Conoco, Hess, Marathon, they've been in the country since 1955. So it's more than 66 years ago. So we have a history of Bilateral as well from the end of 60s. So we want this to keep continuing working on the country. We have a lot of opportunity. For instance, for the Bilateral, as I said, we are now an engineering phase for the infrastructure, new development or development of E&A structure. This in the offshore in the northwest of the country. This is a mega project. This is a $5.5 billion US. This project is including 2 platforms. So I think the ABC companies could join, and could join the tender, and Bilateral, one of them, and other company can join, and they will be happy, to join us. So I think there is opportunity for the new grassroots projects, especially on the offshore, as I said. And also we are having plans, especially in Ghadames Basin. We have to develop the infrastructure, the discovered field like NC7 and NC8. So it's also, this will be another big mega project in the southwest on Achan and Iran. And that area also we have a huge project discovered. The study done by the D&M company, this American company in Texas, Dallas. They gave us, a nice presentation. Hopefully that in October we'll receive the final result. So I think we have high potential in the country. So I think the US companies could join us on this. So I think there's a lot of opportunity. This on the upstream. But if we're speaking about the midstream, we are looking, for the rehabilitation of the piping system and the storage tank. As you know, we lost a lot of storage tank, especially on Sidra and Ras Lanuf. We lost almost 60% of our storage capacity. So I think there's also, we appetite to invest on the storage tank. So we have a lot of idea. Dr. Adel, last year in March, before the pandemic, we were planning to have a meeting. Maybe Aida knows this in Houston, but for sure then we had this problem. But in October also we'll have a meeting with the with the US Energy Department, and also with the American Embassy in Tunis. Between 4th and 5th October, we'll have 2 days workshop with the American US Energy. We are speaking about, the oil and the exploitation and what to do together and what the way forward between the NOC and the American company in general.
Thank you so much. Sounds very exciting and very encouraging. Maybe that we'll segue to a small question, if you don't mind, to Secretary Malenas on these upcoming events with the NOC. What would be the position of the US government and support in ensuring that US companies are part of that and really getting involved in really growing the energy industry for Libya?
Right. So there's a couple of different engagements that we have planned. So I can speak better to what we are trying to do in the Department of State, and that's really looking sort of at the upstream and sort of helping as the chairman alluded to, the rehabilitation and making sure that the upstream is taken care of and ready to go and is able to keep producing and increasing the production to meet those targets. So that's something that we're looking at doing with technical experts that the Department of State is working through. I know Department of Energy is also looking at governance issues and really, we obviously government agencies, we are not petroleum engineers, correct? And so we are looking sort of more broadly at that enabling environment and what we can do to help the Libyan government and the NOC attract that investment, right? And make those investors confident that they're going to be able to go in and make money and make it a win-win, right? Because that's kind of what we see, and obviously the progress and the trend is great and looking very good, but there's work to be done. As the chairman noted, a lot of challenges. So our job is to sort of see how we can enable the private sector and make it more attractive, and let the private sector do its work, right? Because that's who brings in the real expertise and the boots on the ground and the hands that are able to get in there and do the hard work. So
that's great. Thank you for that. Simos, I'm back to you here, and you mentioned the new terms inspired from the works of the neighbors and maybe reduced taxation. Can you develop a little bit more on that? And maybe is there a session coming in future where you want to come and share it for wider audience when these plans are formalized?
What I'm trying to say, Dr. Adel, is it is not, we're not going to invent the wheel, you know. I remember 1986 when the price of oil came, you know, descent to the $9 or $8. At that time, the Libyan government, the NOC at that time, helped its partner, and they make, you know, a new taxation formula. So what I'm trying to say, this time also we can do the same. So when I spoke with the Prime Minister, I told him that we could work, you know, and this is in history. So we will do the same. So we are very open about the win-win relation between our partner. We believe that especially EPSA model, now we are working. We understand our partner are unhappy really to continue their work with the EPSA model right now. The EPSA 4 really is, it is not win-win relation. I could say this is not a secret. So we have many remarks from our partner. That's why we're going to modernize or upgrade the EPSA model to be a win-win relation. So I think this is much important, bearing in mind that we still only have maybe 20 years from now, this window for investment. As you know, the renewable and the energy transition, this will make, you know, like a hammering. So we have to utilize the resources within this 20 years. If we cannot do anything within this 20 years, we cannot do anything in the future. So I think this is very important. And I try to sell the idea to the Prime Minister.
Thank you. This is very clear and very encouraging, Mustafa. You started talking about the energy transition, but before we do that, I want to ask you a question since you talked about investment by international companies. What about the local and private sector? What are the incentives for the local companies to be involved in these expansion plans? Can you share with that with the audience?
Yeah, we have many, Dr. Adel, we have many private company, especially the service company. Most of the workover and the drilling is by a private company. You know, all of them, they work with Waha, with Medlita, with Agoko. Most of them, the catering company, all services by private company. The supply of material, some supply of material by private company. I can tell you before 1978, Dr. Adel, maybe this is new for you to hear. Before 1978, all business by NOC at that time was only exploration, production, and processing. That's all. The other business is done by the private sector. All business, all service, NOC was not involved at all in any services. So this at that time. Then Gaddafi, unfortunately, when he went to communist, so he, you know, cancelled all this work, and a lot of work now is under NOC. But I hope that the stabilization of the country, then we'll get rid of this service and we'll not make any workover or seismic or catering service. This is not our core business. Our core business is exploration, production, processing. That's all.
Very clear. Thank you for sharing that. And you're right, I did not know that. So we learn every day. Thank you. Now, talking about the subject of energy transition, we heard from Secretary Malenas about that, the position of the US government. We also heard from you about, you gave us an insight about the early works, particularly around reduction of emissions, decarbonization on current facilities, using technologies available here, and focusing on doing it on current assets. Can you share with us the long-term strategy of the Libyan NOC and the government around energy transition? Are there any emission goals? And also, what can the US companies, and clearly there's a lot of technology available here in this country on this particular subject, what can they do to support you and the NOC in terms of transition initiatives over the next decade?
I can say, Dr. Adel, as you know, there is a descent in normal production. Every country has limited resources. But I'm saying is Libya will play a major role, you know. Even we have some descent on our production, but we'll focus more about the energy transition. We will produce our power from solar, from renewable, and we'll keep always our production. So if you can make material balance, always will export. For instance, now we're exporting 1 million barrels a day. So I think we'll keep this production 1 million barrels a day, and the rest for power generation we're going to make from the solar. I had many meetings with the GCOL, the chairman and CEO, and I also explained the idea. And we will start with the Bilateral project in the southwest of the country. So we're going to use the power, you know, on the solar. This will be working with Repsol. We are working with Repsol, our partner, on the ShaMaran especially, and we are going to deflaring the gas. And as I said, to use the gas producing LPG, this liquid petroleum gas, for gas cylinder, and this will deflate the gas and will utilize the power generation and solar. So this in general. As I said, we're still working on the database and where we have the emissions everywhere, from the oil field, from the gas turbine, from the furnace, from the boiler, from everywhere. We are building now the data. As I said, well, by end of this year will be clear for us what we have exactly, what's the emission we have, and what we can do. But I can say that if now for Sharara field, if we, you can imagine now, we could produce daily 7,000 barrels of liquid petroleum gas, LPG. If we reduce flaring, this is only a minor project, it's only 25, 30 million US dollars, that's all. So we are going to reduce more than 11 million standard cubic feet of gas, you know, and this one, this, you know, like a project is a pilot. This give you an example what we can do with the energy and what we can do with the decarbonization, you know. So I think in the long run, Libya will keep producing. We'll focus more about the energy. We'll focus more about the, especially the power generation, and we'll utilize the, you know, the resources we have in the country, especially the solar. As you know, Libya is the most, maybe more solar, you know, we have bigger than any other country, you know. If you see the calculation, how many hours we have in Libya, so we are, you know, unique maybe. So I think the future of the country is nice and is bright.
Thank you so much for sharing the early insights on the energy transition, and particularly the current planned activities and the metrics that you guys are preparing to have a more long-term strategy. So very, very helpful. And also thank you for sharing with us the bulk of the opportunities available in Libya for the potential investors, US investors that are participating on this call. I want to switch subjects and talk more about you. Secretary Malenas talked about this award you received recently by the US administration here, this award basically for fighting corruption here. Can you share your thoughts about this award for our audience? What do you think about it here in terms of your impact on yourself and on the country?
Really, it was for me like my birthday, really. At that time, I remember Trish from US Department, she told me, Mustafa, I have no idea. She told me the ambassador in Norland, he wants to speak with you at, I think, 3:30 o'clock for Tripoli time. And at that time, in the morning, maybe 1 hour before, I received good news. We won arbitration case against one company. At that same time, the 25th of February. And then I received a call from Ambassador Norland, and he told me this. It was like, for me, it's really amazing. And like, as I said, I like it too much, and family like it too much, especially my family, they like it too much, you know. So it's from personal point of view, really, it was a nice one, and I cannot really represent the feeling I had at the time. Really, it was for me is this recognition is coming from the US State Department, and only 12 across the world, and only one from the oil sector. So I think this is for me is. And also put on me like more responsibility to be more transparent, to work more and more work. I told the Ambassador Norland that the transparency issue is like a long journey. This is the first step we had, and we have to continue to work on this one. And by the way, we have good work with the US Energy Department, especially the more transparency. We're working together. They interviewed many of my staff. They interviewed myself, and we are waiting now the final report from Energy Department. And that report, hopefully, that will repair if we have some lack of transparency, or we have some, you know, work to be done. Hopefully, that will do the work and will apply the recommendation by the US Energy Department. So this is for the anti-corruption. Thanks again, as I said in my speech, to US government, US Department for the recognition. Thank you.
Mustafa, definitely testament, you know, to commitment to these initiatives and a well-deserved recognition. I do like the analogy. It is another birthday. I like that. Nice surprise. With that, I want to thank you for taking the time to present Libya and share with us your thoughts on its current challenges, its opportunities, and its future. And thank you personally for being available for us virtually. Hopefully, see you again in person. And I'm going to hand it over to Aida if she has any other questions on the other end for the closing comments.
Thank you, Dr. Adel. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Chairman Sanalla, for taking the time to join us. Thank you, Dr. Chaouch, for moderating such a great discussion. I'd like to actually give the final thoughts and parting words to Secretary Salinas and thank her again for her participation.
Oh.
I don't.
Yes, there. Sorry, I was having just a second getting off mute. You know, I just echo again everybody's gratitude for putting today's session together. I know it was a lot of hard work and a lot of people involved. So thank you also to the people behind the scenes that we don't see on the screen today, who I know also worked to make this happen. Mr. Chairman, thank you, and I'm so happy about that. You had such great feelings about the award. It really is an award about courage. It is about courage, and I'm glad to know that that we recognize your courage in taking those steps, and that you're further motivated to do more, because I think it's sort of an endless journey that we keep going, and we look forward to continuing our cooperation, both sort of in the traditional energy sector and in clean energy investment as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you to Seika Supply and ConocoPhillips and NOC for making events like this possible. Good day to everybody and good evening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.